Hey everybody, I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. My name is Mercer and welcome back to another episode of Character War. And today on Character War we have two characters who are blinded by their rage and insanity and just so happen to be red. I'm talking about Cletus Cassidy, the red symbiote known as Carnage versus Darth Maul, the formerly Dark Apprentice to Darth Sidious from Star Wars. So, who wins this fight? Well, why don't we see for ourselves?
Cassidy is gone. There is only Carnage.
As a kid, Cletus Cassidy did not grow up in the most emotionally stable and, home. His home was downright abusive, and most of the reasons that his family members tried to kill him were because of the incidents involving Cletus. By the time Cletus was an adult, he became so psychotic and murderous that he killed over 11 people, and that's just the ones that the police caught him for. And by the time he was in jail, he had roomed with, or his cell was right next to, Eddie Brock, who may or may not have already manifested himself into the psychotic supervillain, Venom. You guys can see where this is going. By the time the Venom symbiote had reached Brock and he escaped from prison, the Venom symbiote, or the Clintarian, which we'll get into in a little bit, had sort of oozed off another symbiote. This mixed with a cut on Cletus's blood and allowed him to become the red symbiote known as Carnage. But first, a little backstory. The Clintarians, or the species where the Venom symbiotes come from, they all have different names, they're not all called Venom, are actually a more peaceful race, but as they are symbiotic, once they reach a host, they inherit the host's emotions and desires. As Cletus is a psychotic, murderous villain, you can pretty much tell how the symbiote sort of reacted when it fused with him. Obviously, Cletus's symbiote then had the same strength, speed, and durability as Venom, and maybe even beyond. Even though this is technically Venom's son, it gets weird. But the symbiote is a little bit different when it comes to Venom and Carnage. Unlike Venom, Carnage's symbiote is sort of fused with Cassidy, making it almost intangible and flow into his bloodstream. That means bullets don't just stop when they reach and bounce off, they go through him. That's why he looks more skeletal, and that's why he can turn into a puddle, because it's sort of fused with Cassidy. Of course, Cassidy's still there, it doesn't fully infect his bloodstream, but on its own, it does have this sort of fusion that makes him, a little bit different than most symbiotes. And this is much different from any other canon source, as this is the more defined source there where Cletus gets his powers. And of course, Cassidy still remains in the symbiote, he can still show his face and whatnot, but just wanted to say, the symbiote is a lot different from Venom's. And he obviously has the same physical advantages and power. And he can still perform the same web sling that Spider-Man normally does, as well as a number of other different techniques. He can use the symbiotic parts to create like web tentacles and pick up objects and maybe sharpen them, create spikes, and a bunch of different weapons like axes, even shovels, I don't know. And he can fire them off like spears, fire off spikes, and change the density of the symbiote, whether to make it hard or much more loose. As the symbiote is more inclined to a puddle, unlike Brock's, the symbiote is capable of creating large tentacles and spreading them out over a 2-mile radius. This means he can keep up with some of the finest Marvel characters, including Venom and Spider-Man. And on his own, Cassidy is very dangerous, making him one of the most, downright insane and even one of the most powerful villains on planet Earth. That's why he's considered to be the most dangerous patient on the raft. And that's saying a lot when you take a look at characters like Abomination, Zax, and a whole bunch of other Marvel villains. On its own, Carnage is also capable of using the web sling advantages and creating and using his strength, speed, and durability that he has on the same level inclined to Venom. This means that Carnage can easily create objects, increase his strength, speed, durability, and he obviously can even absorb the life force out of others. It gets really weird. But Cletus only wants pure carnage and hatred. That's why he picked the name. And obviously, he's much more, gruesome than Venom is, but he's extremely powerful and has some of the strongest abilities across the Marvel Universe, including spreading out his tentacles, using sort of a senses and increase his senses, not like Spider-Man's spider sense, but like the symbiote can like detect objects. He can throw out shards from his body. He can use sort of like liquid like symbiotes to create like sharp objects, and he can create himself and like mold himself into like sharp objects, missile. He can fire himself off extremely fast, and he can go toe to toe with some of the most powerful Marvel characters on his own. Cletus on his own has a number of crazy powerful feats we can go over. And not to mention, most of it is from his symbiote abilities, like when he spreaded out his tentacles 2 miles across New York. And obviously, he's extremely inclined to go on the same advantages of Venom and Spider-Man. One time, he literally fought the two of them head to head and won. And Spider-Man was capable of lifting over 130 plus tons, as well as Venom being able to lift an entire Ferris wheel while being shot by a sound gun from Battlestar. Not to mention, Spider-Man and Venom are capable of reacting to light speed attacks and going toe-to-toe, and Carnage has gone toe-to-toe with some of even other light speed characters, like Reed Richards. That means he's 3 to 5% over the speed of light, as those characters are inclined to that sort of speed, even if it's a little bit lower. Carnage on his own can take tons of damage from characters like Venom, and Spider-Man. And he's gone toe-to-toe with some of the strongest Marvel heroes ever, from Captain Marvel to Miss Marvel to Iron Man, and even being taking tons of hits from the Avengers, and even going toe-to-toe with even the higher buds, like how he got ripped apart by Sentry and survived. Sentry, the guy who has the power of a bunch of exploding suns, and taken hits from Juggernaut. Even though Venom did take those hits, it's very inclined that Carnage could survive the same. He's also taken hits from Hulk. And no, I'm not using the more advanced King in Black Carnage. We'll be sticking with the classic character for, this one. But no matter how you slice it, Carnage is a force to be reckoned with. He's taken tons of damage, and he does have one big weakness: sound and fire. Like most symbiotes, but he has built up a resistance to this, and he has gone on par to par with Venom and other characters. Carnage is hands down one of the deadliest Marvel characters ever to grace the comics page. I would think twice before stepping into a ring with this symbiote.
Doubt will only lead to failure. Hold! Our combined strength will be rewarded. Mandalore will be yours, and Kenobi, this Sith pretender Dooku, and all our enemies will fall.
Darth Maul was born under the lone planet of Dathomir along with many other Dathomirians, including his brother Savage Opress. Darth Maul, like the other Dathomirians, was born under the Mother Talzin, and she gave him an opportunity and a chance in life to become the next Dark Apprentice of the Sith, again under Dark Sidious, as she sensed a lot of hatred and emotion for him that included rage and all the basic emotions of a Sith Lord, aside from greed. Obviously, Darth Maul then trained right after that in lightsaber combat and force, energy, and he specializes in one particular lightsaber form. Form 7, Juyo. Form 7 takes parts from many other different forms, including Ataru, which allows nimbility, power, and strength to go up against many other different users. This meant when he was much more of an apprentice, he was able to go up against even Jedi Knights like Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and was able to fight off tons of Jedi while he was a mere apprentice. Even on his own, Darth Maul was capable of using so much Force energy through his hatred and rage, and he wields a double-sided lightsaber instead of just a basic one-sided one to capitalize and use of his form. And like many other users, he specializes in the use of the Force through lightsaber combat and inch power and speed. He can use it in many other needs and use it as an external source to call upon for power. Darth Maul is then extremely powerful in the use of the Force and can use it for telepathy, strength, can use it to counter attacks, can use it to block attacks, can use Force Barrier. Obviously, he can use it for, choking and mind tricks, as long as someone isn't weak-minded. But because of his hatred and rage, Darth Maul can use different forms of the Force to block and control different attacks. And obviously, if his opponent isn't as strong in the Force or doesn't have any Force energy, he can quickly overcome their power by using many of his Force techniques. He can even stop and nullify different attacks. And though he cannot, use Force lightning, he has learned to build up a powerful resistance to it and control it into making more Force energy. Obviously, then he can create a different invulnerability modes with his Force, and he can even use his Force so much power that can take out the Quadra generators in a Star Destroyer. This is extremely powerful. Darth Maul on his own is very much powerful enough to even keep up with hyperspace level travel. And he's a skilled pilot, fighter, and even without the Force, he's one of the finest martial artists in all of Star Wars, even going as far to use hand-to-hand combat and skill to overcome many obstacles in his way. And he's obviously capable of going toe-to-toe with some of the other Sith, including his sort of replacement rival, Count Dooku, and the not sort of Sith, but General Grievous, who is extremely strong, can lift up large ships, and even take hits from Star Destroyer cannons. As a matter of fact, Darth Maul has so many impressive feats that he's become a bit of a crime lord as well as a Force user, and one of the most powerful Sith lords, and crime lords across the galaxy, even starting a full galactic war. And he's obviously skilled enough to go on and use his rage to increase his Force energy, though this has blinded him in the past, including his 2 separate defeats from Obi-Wan Kenobi. But we'll get into that in a little bit later. Darth Maul is a skilled fighter and extremely powerful foe. Obviously, he has tons of different feats as one of the most powerful Sith Lords in all of Star Wars. He's gone toe-to-toe with Pre Vizsla, the Buzz Lightyear-looking character from Star Wars. Sorry, that was an inside joke I had to make. In which he picked up the Darksaber. As obviously, Mandalorians are no joke, guys. If you watch the show, they are extremely strong and powerful. And the Darksaber is a lineage blade from the Old Republic that Darth Maul was able to pick up, although it did get in the hands of Sabine from Star Wars Rebels. Obviously, and there are 2 different Darksabers, and obviously he did pick up a single-bladed one from, given to him by his brother Savage Opress, and he then trained Savage Opress to become one of the deadliest Sith across the land. And now, Darth Maul has basically even fought his old master Darth Sidious, one of the most powerful Sith Lords ever, and when Darth Sidious was capable of going toe-to-toe with both him and Savage, he quickly killed Savage, spoilers, and Maul was the fastest one, there. And Darth Sidious was capable of using a Force Storm, which was able to cover an entire planet and destroy large Star Destroyers, also the first wormhole, if you'd like to call it like that. This was capable of destroying couples and the Star Destroyers, engulfing an entire planet, and even blinding Luke Skywalker. And Darth Maul was capable of going toe-to-toe with some of the finest Jedi in the Jedi Order. And some of them are capable of holding apart planets and even black holes, like Kip Duron and Kit Fisto sometimes. Obviously, right after he was able and he had his hatred for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Actually, one sec. He's gone toe-to-toe with General Grievous, who, on his own, is capable of taking hits from tons of different Jedi, killed them without the use of the Force, and was even able to survive the surface of a planet exploding in his face, as well as Star Destroyer Gatling cannons. And Maul, on his own, is extremely strong and powerful to go through both him and Count Dooku with ease, even keeping up with lightspeed hyperspace travel on his own, as most Jedi are able to use it and predict it in, I think it was like the nanosecond modes, like Kit Fisto and Plo Koon. And that's just a lowball. All of them are capable of going at the speed of light reaction speeds. And then Maul's hatred and power for one opponent, Obi-Wan Kenobi, as he was literally cut in half by Obi-Wan, ruined his crime lord, and even killed in the future. His hatred for Obi-Wan has never died. And eventually, while it did lead him to his defeat in being outskilled, Maul has been known to be one of the finest finest Sith across the Order. Maul is capable of so many things, but if there's one emotion that stands out and one power, it's his pure, powerful hatred. So, who wins this fight? Well, for starters, I just want to say this fight is very interesting because it is much closer than I initially thought. Both characters are capable of some crazy feats and can go on to some crazy powers, and it isn't really one-sided. So let's start with strength and see who wins. Obviously, we know Darth Maul is capable of going toe-to-toe with tons of different Jedi. Some are even capable of going into the planetary busting ranges. And while Darth Maul is capable of going up against General Grievous and Count Dooku, who could survive surface planet destructions, we know this for certain as Darth Maul could very much keep on par with planetary-level Jedi, or Jedi that are on par with planetary-level Jedi, like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. As a matter of fact, Darth Maul's fight with Obi-Wan puts him on the same sort of level, as many of their fights, except for the ones at the end and the beginning, are very much evenly matched, and it isn't always one-sided, as well as Darth Sidious, who is very well capable of covering an entire planet with his Force Storm, which would take a ton of energy. And though I can't see my best to give a concrete number, I would probably estimate Spider-Man's is around, or Spider-Man and Venom, who have over 200, 250 ton level, and that can go higher, but we do know for certain that Darth Maul is stronger in his Force energy, but that does not mean physical stats. In terms of physical stats, Carnage has it down. But let's take a look at speed. We know that characters in, Spider-Man, Venom, Carnage are all capable of dodging beams of light and lightning bolts. This is very much true, as we've seen the Spider-Sense being able to allow Spider-Man to sort of kind of dodge lightning bolts at an easy rate. And yes, I think Darth Maul was capable of going around light speed as well with his reaction time. But the Spider-Sense can very well do the same, and it's very much fluent with Carnage, as Carnage remains sort of undetectable by the Spider-Sense, if you know what I mean. If that wasn't true enough, Carnage on his own is very much capable of going toe-to-toe with characters who are easily going beyond light speed, much faster than any other character, almost even Iron Man in his Illuminati suit. So we know that for certain. But let's take a look at the final category. So Carnage has physical strength and speed, while the Darth Maul has the Force strength and better reaction times. So let's take a look at durability. Carnage has this down. He was able to take hits from Juggernaut, Sentry, and even the Hulk, all while being completely fine. And these guys aren't just, just like big hulking guys. No kind of strength and power exists in the Star Wars universe, and even still, it's very much rare. Darth Maul on his own was very much capable of going toe-to-toe with the Force Storm, yes, but that did not affect him in the same way. But overall, I do think Carnage inevitably does win this fight. And before you say, Darth Maul can use the heat of the lightsaber, obviously we know that heat is more concurrent to plasma blasts. And Carnage survives those on a very, fine basis. He's fine. And what about sound? He could create a sort of energy sphere with the Force. Obviously, that would not work the same. It would just hold them together, and Carnage is known to take apart and go through those kind of situations. The Force on its own really has no definite way to stop something like a symbiote, as nothing in the Star Wars universe normally exists. And even still, stuff like that, infected parasites, don't really have the same measurement as something like a symbiote would in the Marvel universe. So, while Darth Maul does have a very fine advantage in strength and reaction time, Carnage's better physical speed, creativity, power, and overall better advantages gave him the win. And while it is a bit confusing, just think of it this way. While Darth Maul could put Carnage on his toes, this really wouldn't be anything new for Carnage, while it would be something new for Maul. And, not to mention, without anything to kill Carnage with, Carnage just really had the overall advantage. So, the winner is Carnage. Before we get into the next time, I'd like to ask you all to go check out my friend RWBY Gaming. He is a very nice YouTuber who does versus debates, trailers, and he did inevitably make this trailer for me for the next time on Character War. It was very cool. Normally, I don't do trailers. I just say who's next, and this one looks totally awesome. He was very generous to ask me, so go check out his channel. There'll be a link in the description. Let's go watch this awesome trailer.